I'm Mike Oxman. I'm one of the managing partners and principals at a consulting practice called No Margin, No Mission. That guy over in the top left corner is Larry Clark. He's the other managing partner and principal at No Margin, No Mission. And on behalf of the Patterson Foundation, we have had the wonderful privilege of partnering with them for, gosh, it's almost 10 years on this initiative called Margin and Mission Ignition, which I'll tell you more about in a minute, all about earned income and social enterprise. I'd also like to just briefly introduce the team from the Patterson Foundation, the other folks who are here with us today. Michael Corley, one of the fellow blue shirters who you can see just waving. Let's see, Michael Zimmerman is a fellow at the Patterson Foundation. Rachel Hettinger is also a fellow at the Patterson Foundation. And we also have Kelly Alexander with us today, who's a fellow at the Patterson Foundation. So I think that's our TPF team. As I said before, welcome back to those of you who have joined us for previous sessions in this guest speaker series. And for those of you who are newbies today, we're delighted to have you with us. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and we'll jump in and get started. So bear with me just for one moment. The session today is, as I said, it's part of a continuing series where we've asked CEOs from some entrepreneurial nonprofits to join us to share about their earned income ventures and what has made them thrive. So you'll hear another great story today from one of our partners. I'll just say briefly, Janine Amick is here with us from the Florida Cultural Group. Janine, you can wave so everybody can see you. And then after we hear from Janine today, we're going to tell you a little bit about how your organization can sort of join in on Margin and Mission Ignition and participate in this initiative. So as I said, this is a continuing series. This is number 3 of 4. Next week's session, the day after Labor Day on the 6th of September, we'll have another guest CEO with us. Her name is Sharon Costelli, and she's with an organization called Chrysalis Center in Hartford, Connecticut. And she'll talk about how their organization launched a mission-aligned catering venture. I'm going to stop for a moment and just introduce Rachel Hettinger. She's going to share a couple of quick Zoom housekeeping items. So Rachel, are you there?
Yeah, hi Mike, I'm here. Thank you everyone for coming today. Just a reminder that we would like you all to remain muted until we have time for Q&A towards the end. If you could rename yourself like I am with your name and then your organization, that would be really helpful for attendance purposes. Feel free to share comments or questions in the chat throughout the presentation, and Michael Zimmerman and I will keep track for when it's time for Q&A. And just so you know, this session is being recorded and you will get the recording sent to you in our follow-up email.
Beautiful. Thank you, Rachel. Yeah, and as Rachel said, because we've recorded all the sessions, for those of you who haven't been at the first 2, if you would like to have access to those sessions, just let us know and we'll be happy to send you links to them. So our agenda today, as I said, is action-packed. I'm just going to do a little bit of introduction, share a little bit of context, and then we'll get into the real meat of the session today by introducing Janine to share her story. And then we'll take about 10 minutes at the end to talk about Margin and Mission Ignition, what it is, and how your organization can participate in this initiative moving forward. Of course, we'll leave some time for Q&A. So please jot down questions either in the chat box or just on a pad of paper, and feel free to ask as we move into our Q&A. I don't think there's anybody here who doesn't know who the Patterson Foundation is, but just as a reminder, and the Patterson Foundation is really about strengthening the efforts of people and organizations and communities, both in and around our 4-county region and beyond. You likely know a number of the initiatives from the Patterson Foundation, most notably the Giving Challenge, and then of course the Suncoast Campaign for Grade Level Reading, Digital Access for All, Patriot Plaza, and the list goes on. However, today's session is really about the Patterson Foundation's thrivability, one of their thrivability initiatives, which we call Margin and Mission Ignition. If you're not familiar with it, this initiative is all about helping nonprofits boost their revenue and their mission impact, either by launching an earned income venture that may already be existing, or not existing rather, or taking one that does exist and growing it and evolving it and taking it to the next level. And just to ground everybody in what is an earned income venture, because we have a definition that we've adopted, it's an enterprise that generates revenue from the sale of goods and or services. And ultimately, the enterprise provides unrestricted income for your nonprofit organization, which can be mission related, or it can technically be not mission related. However, I will just note that we do prefer to work with organizations that have an earned income venture that is mission aligned. So it just helps to make it that much stronger for your own organization. And one thing that an earned income venture is not, is it's not grants or donations. So of course, that's revenue that comes into nonprofits that's valuable and vital. However, it doesn't fall into that definition of what we call earned income. The good news is that earned income ventures can take many forms. It's actually just a matter of your own creativity, thinking about perhaps things that you're already doing that you could monetize and generate more revenue from, or generate revenue from because you've been giving it away for free or selling it at a low cost. But it could range from everything from a behavioral clinic to an art and supply store to a community theater to educational training or veterinary services or literacy training, a low vision store, horseback riding, school store, senior daycare center, a thrift store, venue rentals, and the list does go on and on and on. As I said or alluded to a moment ago, the goal for an earned income venture is to boost your nonprofit organization's revenue and also hopefully to help increase its mission impact. And ultimately, it's all about moving the needle from either surviving or sustaining and into what would be the ability to thrive as an organization. You will hear quotes from Larry and I frequently. For those of you who have been with us, you've seen this quote now. This is your third time. So we think that's good because they always say it takes 3 times for something to actually stick. So here it is again, for those of you who have seen it. But the best part of a nonprofit's revenue pie is that big slice that's filled with earned income. And if you, as the nonprofit CEO, a board member, or even a staff member, haven't looked at sort of the revenue pie for your organization recently, we urge you to do that, to see how much of it actually is coming from earned income. So with that, we have one poll question. Again, some of you have seen this poll question, so please answer it again. But for those of you who are new, we're going to launch this and ask you to answer it in the way that best fits your organization. So Michael, I'll let you introduce the question.
Sure. So our poll question is, how would you characterize the role of earned income in your organization today? Is it a priority, and are you always looking for opportunities to expand and grow it? You may have some earned income activities, but want to make them a bigger priority, or we don't have any earned income activities and we are interested in exploring. So take a moment to answer this. We'd like everyone to participate in this poll. I see we're about halfway there. We can encourage everyone to click their answer and click submit at 72%. Just awaiting 2 more responses here, and we're almost there. Let's give it another 5 seconds. Okay, here are our results.
All right. Well, this group almost mirrors the group from our second session where we're pretty equally split between number 1 and number 2. So for just about half of you, it's a priority and you're looking for opportunities to expand and grow your earned income. And then for the rest of you, you have some earned income activities, but you'd like to make them a bigger priority. So the good news here is that regardless of how you answered this poll question, as we move into introducing our guest speaker, her story will not only be inspiring, but will be relevant to each of you. So with that, it's a pleasure to introduce Janine Amick. As I said earlier, she's the CEO of the Florida Cultural Group, but in particular, the Manatee Performing Arts Center, which is the story she'll tell you about today. We've had the good fortune of working with Janine for several years. And again, for those of you who know her, she's a real social entrepreneur, a powerhouse in the community, and is going to share a wonderful story about her organization with us. And if I could just underscore, as we've done in previous sessions, while Janine's story in and of itself will be inspiring and informative, pay particular attention to sort of the process, the phases that they went through as she shares her story. So Janine, I'm going to introduce you. Are you there?
Yes. So thank you, everyone, for taking time. I know as nonprofits, we're always busy, and right in the middle of a work week, it's difficult to get away. So I personally appreciate your time. I cannot say enough. If nothing else I say about Margin and Mission and Ignition is that everyone should be forced to really participate in the labs. I think that it stretches us as organizations to find out what we don't know, that we should know, that we should already be doing, not only as people in our places of nonprofit industries, but also helping collectively the community of nonprofits get stronger together. I always say that a nonprofit is a tax status. It is not a business model. And Margin, Mission, Ignition helps you as an organization realize that, and it truly does help the organization and each person who participates in the process thrive. So I'm here on behalf of Manatee Performing Arts Center today. As Michael so kindly said, I am the CEO of Florida Cultural Group. That is the umbrella organization. So we're going to jump right into our slides. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of Manatee Performing Arts Center, formerly best known in this region as Manatee Players. The nonprofit started almost 75 years ago, 74 years ago currently. It started as a small pneumatic troupe of thespians who just really wanted to provide snowbirds entertainment while they were here for a couple of months during the year. And that was best known as the Manatee Players. I won't go into all the details because I could speak for ages on the history of our organization. But the small group of individuals soon found out that our community needed the arts. It was an integral part of people socially gathering together. They're all volunteers. Still to this day, our Manatee Players troupe, which is a resident troupe of Manatee Performing Arts Center, are committed to being volunteers and giving the best of themselves to our community cost effectively. And that's an important part of our history because we want to be able to do dramas and plays and Broadway musicals. We want to be able to make sure they're also cost effective, which is key to our mission of gathering people. And by understanding that, best about us is that we don't want to just entertain people, we want to inspire people. And Michael, if you go to, yes. So, it says we want to be the community's premier theater, the region's cultural, education, artistic center for expression, as well as an economic driver. And our team from the top down, and that's the board of directors, works tirelessly to deliver engaging excellence for all through the talent that we present, the services we offer, and the experiences we create. And again, our goal is not to just entertain you. We want to inspire you. And so in order to do that, that takes lots of money. And in order to be more open as a community theater and keep tickets cost effective, you know, that was why we came to the table and attended our first No Margin, No Mission. Because, you know, when we look at our vision and mission, you know, it was, who are we? Well, we are entertainers because we self-produce. We promote other entertainment to come in. We educate and train both on the technical side of theater, meaning learning lights, learning sound, as well as we're a gathering hub for people to come in and use our facility, cultural hub, because we partner with other types of arts organizations as well as entertainment organizations to share the cake. I don't like taking pieces of pie from the community. We all like to share the cake, and we are an economic driver. Now, don't be misled because this slide is so much in the beginning. These things we discovered and added to what our original mission was after we went through the process of our labs and then our business plan development, then strategically working with our board of directors, which I'll get more into, that we actually, you know, foreshadowing some of what I'm going to say in the future, we ended up changing our mission and realized that our mission was too singularly focused on one thing, and realized that our mission in our community is to be so much more. And that was revealed to us through going through the process. So I'm going to take you on this journey. And you know, hopefully you'll see a commonality in the photos. These are theatrical pictures, but they're all water oriented because the Performing Arts Center is right on the river of Manatee in downtown Bradenton. And so I want to say kudos to Michael and Larry who stretched me and came up with these slides. For anybody who knows me, it would have just been a whole bunch of bullet points and some statistics. And so I'm on the business side of theater, but I'm stretching myself to be a different type of character today. And but let's talk about the journey. And so the journey was actually getting me as an individual to realize I don't know everything that I should know. And there are things that I need to be able to stretch myself into and actually going to a lab. All right, because as executive directors, as development officers, we think that because of the number of books we have, Google searches, we have everything at our fingertips that that we have access at any time that we want. This had to be an effort that really, not only myself, my board chair, our collective board, and then our key leaders in the organization had to buy into setting aside the time to actually go to the labs and have open, candid, honest conversations. So we explored earned income possibilities by participating in the labs. And like I just said, it helped open our mind to possibilities. We literally talked about everything and anything, spaghetti against the wall, what stuck, what didn't stick, what was in line with mission, what was way too far off of mission. But then again, also because we're a small staff, we only have 10 members. So it was something also collectively the staff members had to get behind, because we didn't want anybody to think who was running a particular program that they weren't important anymore, that this was now going to be, you know, our shiny new nickel, and that it was going to be where we were spending all of our energies, and this was going to be the new us. We wanted to make sure that the team through these processes learn that they're part of the decision making, and this extra money that was possible to make was only going to enhance what they were already doing, and we wanted them at the table. So the next one is, so here's just 3 of the ones that went through the final phases. There were many more than this, but we talked about conservatory classes. We talked about charging for parking. And then we talked about venue rental. And so I'm happy to say that two out of the 3 conservatory classes is up and coming in the next year. And charging for parking is probably in the year after that, because through this process, we learned so much more. We also learned you can't do everything at once. If you want to do something right, you want to do something well, choose one thing, stick with it, follow it through the process, learn what works, what doesn't work. And so then the other business planning comes along so greatly. So we ended up choosing venue rental. We have this great facility, Manatee Performing Arts Center. We wanted to improve access that people had to the facility and other organizations in regards to events that they wanted to hold, nonprofit galas, providing forums for discussion in our main house, providing other nomadic troops access to the facility. Everything that anybody who was coming to the doors prior to this was us producing and taking care of every single event from beginning to end. And we wanted to say, okay, we could only fill so much time or else we were going to exhaust our staff. How could we use our space, have earned income? And then as well as the why was because we wanted to introduce new customers to the facility that we hope came back full circle and would come and participate in some of our programs. So we did an in-depth study and realized there wasn't a lot of spaces like ours in Manatee County and even in the greater region. And so as you can see, how did we know? Because we did a lot of background information through the process with Ignition Admission saying, hey, you guys have something people want. They don't know that you're offering it. And downtown was key to a lot of the businesses who wanted to gather together. So there was definitely a demand we were able to articulate through our planning. So there was very limited. So we went to facility rental. So we have, you know, a large array. Here's just a couple of pictures. And as you can see, we chose photos that were outside of what people normally would think of when they think of a performing arts center. Okay, we've had bar mitzvahs, we've had weddings in the ballroom, we've had lunches in the gallery, which is our lobby. We've had people take it over as a mini convention center and walk through the building and have classes. And so, and the facility and at all its possibilities, you know, is available days, weekends, nights. We have a full catering kitchen and banquet services, and we have a huge parking lot right across the street, so people coming downtown didn't have to worry. So we were able to articulate, man, I can't believe we have all of these pluses. You know, we've got all of these things in-house. So it was, after going through this, it was almost like a no-brainer, but not entirely. And so when we moved, we said, okay, so here's what we have in regards to options and the selections. So we went to the next one, Michael, to the transformation and the possibilities as we talked about. People on our staff, board members started saying, well, we could, you know, have this type of meeting. We can have this type of group. Man, the library is sold out in their lecture series. They can come over here during the day. And so, I mean, event after event. I mean, there are constantly even more events we're hosting next week. The Public Health Department for Manatee County, they're bringing in all of their staff. They got 200 members, and because of COVID, they want to be sensitive. So they're going to meet in Stone Hall, and everybody can, you know, move themselves within 3 to 5 feet of everybody else. And they're able to have an all hands meeting, you know, great partnership with us. So the endless possibilities. So then the second phase of our journey was to develop the plan. All right, I loved this part. This is where you get into the nitty gritty. For some people, you know, they're just like, oh, do you really need to go through this? Yes. Okay, and you will love going through this once you're done. Okay, I'm not going to say you're going to love going through it while you're going through it. All right, but I will tell you, somebody I think this is 7 years later, 6 years later than when we do it. We still use this plan. We still pass out this document. We have just updated it with Larry. And so this is still a key part because there are sections of this business planning process that are not just focused on this business plan development. When you have to talk about your team, you know, and when you have to gather information about the expertise of everybody on your staff who's going to help this business plan go and come from a vision to an actual event launch, it invigorates everybody on the team. You're finding out that people have talents in your organization you might never have known. You might find that somebody really writes well, and that wasn't, you know, actually revealed until going through the process. So you describe the business opportunity, you define the business model, and then you examine its viability. So you're doing research, you're finding out who are your competitors, you know, who are going to be your partners, who are going to be those initial clients that I want to go to right off of the bat. Who am I going to even during the process go and start talking to and finding out, hey, if we start doing this, is our organization or our facility something you want to come alongside and book on a year? So developing the business plan was huge. Now, when we talked about facility rental and boosting revenue and how it impacted mission. So directly by getting other people to rent our facility when they left, okay, this was something we did. Once they left, we thanked those audience members for visiting the Performing Arts Center, made sure they had something tangible so that they knew what else was going on in the facility that they might not have known, which increased our facility gate for up and coming performances. Because a number of times people would come here, if the partners were really great, we would ask them, hey, by a show of hands, how many times is this your first time at the Performing Arts Center? Overwhelmingly, more than 50% of the time in the beginning, people had never been here before. So it helped us, you know, with facility gate. It serves as an economic driver because when we're renting out the facility, they're encouraging photographers to come in, their media clients to come in, so caterers to come in. So other organizations, other vendors are now getting new revenue streams as well. Provided space for nomadic theatrical troupes that now felt as though they had new homes to go to. We produce with Theater Odyssey, that doesn't have its own. One of the other troupes, more in line with dance studios, we found out that, you know, all of those little kids throughout Manatee County who all year long are in dance classes didn't really have the proper place to show their end of the year recitals. So it provided access for us to go out and encourage them to use our space. That's bringing in families to see their kids on stage. That also helped us go back to mission so that we can capture their information when they're here, so that we can tell them about our kids programs over the summer when a lot of dance studios may be dark. It diversified our revenue streams, which was vital for us understanding that when we did a strategic plan years ago, what happens when people don't want to volunteer as much as they used to come and do shows on our behalf? You know, how can we make up, if we reduce one of our shows, how can we make up that revenue? It enhanced our sponsorship packages because now we were able to show corporate sponsors, media people, partners within that it's not just talking to one type of audience coming to the facility. We were able to show them, no, it's not just this, it's also these types of people are coming to these events, these types of people are coming to these events. So we were able to show them that if you include everybody walking through our door on an annual basis, prior to COVID, there were 75,000 people walking through our organization. Okay, only about 38,000 of them were coming to a show. So it definitely showed the increase in gate when we were done. It strengthened our income plan. It is now definitely part of something. This is not an extra. This has become a vital part of what we do moving forward. And it improved the facility infrastructure because now we're always saying we are tour ready. Every person on our staff talks about the improvement of the facility infrastructure. And we're going to take care of this building even more so because of how many people see it on a new basis. So we'll go into the third phase, and that was implementation. And so this was exciting because for those who don't know, this particular building, Manatee Performing Arts Center, has been opened 8 years. So you can imagine just 10 years ago, we were in a huge capital campaign. And then you're saying, okay, now we want to do a new income revenue stream. Okay. And we love this building. Everybody gave great money to the building, but we need some new things in the building because we found out the building wasn't the best it could be. You know, how do you articulate that in a positive way? And so the business planning process gave us the ability to reach out to get our startup capital, to specifically talk to those donors and our stakeholders about, we are so happy with your gifts that you gave us that we want to make sure that this as a cultural hub, as a community center without a basketball hoop, is available more to the community than we initially anticipated, because we want your gift to impact more than just people who come see our shows. And so we had to operational the plan and we had to bring it to life. So in regards to what we needed in startup capital is we needed personnel. We needed to make sure that this did not bring down any of our other programs, didn't stretch those current staff members. So we needed to make sure somebody was going to be in charge of this. Somebody was going to be able to handle these conversations, go out and make these sales pitches. We needed to make sure that they had the materials that they needed to educate people. Again, we had to, change people's mindsets that, okay, I'm going to have my wedding at a performing arts center, or, oh, I didn't even think that I could, have a forum. Oh, I can have my all hands meeting for businesses. I can have a convention. I can be in the ballroom having a civic organization lunch. So the materials had to be created and they had to tell a different story. They had to show new professional photos of the facility for those people who needed to see something tangible, who couldn't see beyond just articulating words. So that was important to us. There were $95,000 worth of facility renovations that we had to do. So we needed to make sure that if we wanted 3 different events going on in the organization at once, somebody's in Stone Hall, somebody's in our small theater, and somebody's in the ballroom, we wanted to make sure nobody could hear each other. That was huge because you wanted to make sure that everybody had the best experience possible. So we had to do some soundproofing of rooms. And in regards to equipment and technology, we wanted to make sure microphones were easy to use. So we have a great system in Stone Hall, but it may not be the most user-friendly. We wanted projectors and screens for those people who were coming in and using the facility as forums, as lectures, as business meetings. Even if they were showing PowerPoints, that was all important to us. And then you had to remember, we're talking about 3 different spaces. And so the same screen doesn't work in all locations properly. So if we were going to jump into this, we wanted to jump into this and make sure it looks like it was part of the plan of a world-class facility right from the get-out. We didn't want to band-aid it and we didn't want to do small steps. We said, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. So we had $17,000 on cash. We had a $20,000 challenge grant from Bradenton Kiwanis, who meets here every Tuesday. It was to their benefit to enhance their space. for their own meetings. So they said, okay, well, we're going to, challenge you with the first 20. So we needed an additional $180,000. The next couple of slides will tell you, for instance, this ceiling acoustical tiles. For certain people, we were going to donations. They wanted to know why, especially one gentleman who is extremely good to us had already given us over $3 million in this new facility. We had to make sure, again, we articulated, well, why didn't we do this in the beginning? And so we had to do an acoustical tile in our small theater. And we talked about the remediation. And then in step 2, the facility upgrades. So it was the audio and visual equipment that we just talked about in all of the spaces. And then in step 3, we had to hire a skilled staff person. We had to hire a skilled, and skill is very important here. And going through this business plan was very important because this person had to not only be able to sell, okay, but they had to be able to articulate well how we could transform the space to meet the needs of people coming in. And the business process, walking through that, that's what was so great about bringing the staff along in this business planning process, is you go through scenarios so that when you're writing your business plan, you're answering the what ifs so that you know who is what you're needed. So we needed somebody with the sales experience. We needed somebody to understand events. We needed somebody who felt comfortable with outreach, because they're going to go talk to people who don't use our facility. They're going to talk to people that, didn't know that we existed. And so for that, we needed $30,000 for the first 6 months to get them on board. So this person, once they were hired and through the process, we needed to connect with key customer prospects. And so as you can see, we went to corporations, seminars and workshops, recognition dinners, and corporate parties to give you some ideas. So for instance, everybody probably knows Cisco, okay? Cisco comes in and uses us. They're bringing in all of their clients. They actually take over the entire facility. They'll have a guest person on stage doing a demonstration with some type of new distributing meat, and then they're doing an HR class for their clients in the small theater. Upstairs, they got all of their vendors. So we, in regards to corporations, had to think outside the box. Recognition dinners. We host the annual doctor's dinner now for Manatee Memorial Hospital. And corporate parties. Holiday parties is a huge deal for us coming in. They come in because we're downtown. Event planners. We actually went and we have been, prior to COVID, we set up tables at wedding events because people didn't think about using us. So we're not necessarily looking at the bride who's walking around, but having our presence at the table, we were able to build relationships with other vendors who are those event planners. Class reunions, anniversary parties, and again, nonprofit organizations, galas, and fundraisers. So we reached out to them when we were going through the implementation, providing them those marketing materials, asking them to come in and take tours. So from this, then we've talked to people, now we go into our sales plan. We partnered with downtown stakeholders. I am all about partnering because I believe that this is a huge opportunity for those people who might not have certain resources and other people do, that you share what's best about organization. So we've done exhibits at the Manatee Chamber events. Again, and you would think that we have multiple personalities here. We do. We'll go to a chamber event. Half of our table is talking about the shows and the opportunities for people to come and get entertained, get together in the evening with multiple workers. The other half of the table is how can their businesses use our facilities to enhance what they're already providing to their clients. Attended planner consortium meetings, again, making sure that people who are planning these meetings know that we have these resources here. Tourist Development Council, advertising. Again, it's crazy, but we have 2 different types of ads that we send out to our Tourist Development Council. Those looking for meeting space and those who are tourists visiting the area, that after they, had their meeting, that they're coming back that night at 8 o'clock to come see a great show while they're here in town. We surveyed past clients and customers. This is something we had done onesies and twosies when people came in. They knew we had a stage. And so, it was haphazard. I will even tell you, the pricing all changed depending on who they were talking to sometimes. So the business plan helped us articulate, formulate, put into concrete, so that everybody was talking the same story at the same time, had the same answers to the same questions. We've hosted events, again, where we've brought people in and then surprised them and said, did you know? And then shared everything that they didn't expect to hear about the organization. So we don't talk about the shows. We talk about the other things. And then they feel like VIPs. They're learning stuff that they didn't know that they can share with other people. We visited with our corporate partners. So we had people sponsoring shows and we said, it's great. We love it that you're sponsoring shows. How about having some of your corporate events here? They didn't even realize that that could be a thing. And then we executed the advertising campaign. So these were our thought processes. Then we provided materials. And then each one of these, we went out and did. We got our financial projections. So these are revenues. 2017 included our startup. And then as you can see, in 2018, 179, in 2019, 211. Right off the bat, and what I would say is in 2018, it was already providing surplus. Surplus meaning it had paid for itself and had provided those additional resources. That was always the reason why we started the process, to help fund other programs in the organization. So now we go on to the 4th phase of our journey, and that was tracking and monitoring. So when you go through this, it's not, I can't stand, you go through and a consultant will write you a business plan. That's why I love this process, because they walk hand in hand with you. You guys are doing the work. You're learning. You're doing the research. They will help edit. They will help stretch you to, ask you questions of things you might have forgotten, that you overlooked. But it doesn't just stop there. They don't just, Larry and Michael don't just say, great, we wrote a plan. That's great. Let me see your first marketing material. Okay, you hired somebody to do the job. Great, you're on your way. Okay, no. Now they're going to make sure that you are following up and you are tracking, that you are, okay, did you meet your 3-month goal? Okay, if not, maybe what were the hurdles that you came over? How can we overcome those hurdles? So this is truly a journey that they take you on. I love it because we have to be, responsible for the material, but believe me, they will push you to get it done. Even if sometimes it's the last hour and Larry is saying, Janine, I still don't have your edited paragraphs. So I was one of those that pushed it to the end. But so they're going to track you through. They're going to help. And the other thing is, don't worry if you don't think that your organization is in a situation right now to be able to figure out the financial statements. I have talked to people and they go, oh, we're just not ready for this. The business plan and the software that is used can help you do that, even if your P&L and your statements of activities right now can't. And that's something that's important, because some people say, oh, my finance department can't handle anything else. The software that is used is so easy friendly. It's step by step. And so that's important to know. So then you can follow your financials and your mission goals. We talked about how they help you address those things. And then rental results to date. We've added new staff to manage our venue rentals. We upgraded our financial management system. So we now have a data management system that does everything for our facility. We added soundproofing upgrades. We did that for rentals, and it has helped in everything else we did. We added software. So now we've got so much going on in so many different rooms that now anyone can come in and log into their computer and know who's going to be where when, which helps us in planning room-to-room movement. And it provided for our board to proceed to move forward with a conservatory business plan. And then from there to move to our parking plan. So to date, our rental revenue program, and this does not include anything that has to do with our shows, our donations or anything, has been $1 million. We were slated to be $1.5 million if COVID had not hit. And now it's not just renting facilities. We found out when people were walking through our facility, they wanted to rent some of our stuff. And so that has only added to our business plan. So super exciting for us. I can't say enough about the process. And I will tell you, I was one of those who was reluctant, saying, is it really necessary to do all of this narrative? And the narrative will stick with you in as long as you make sure that it's a living part of your business. And it will help. And I will tell you, your most sophisticated donors, they love it. They absolutely love it. And I was surprised how many of them read it from cover to cover. So going through the process will only make your team a better team. Actually implementing the process will only make your organization stronger. And then sharing the document after it's done will only make your donors appreciate more, that you appreciate what they're, that you appreciate what they're giving, and you want to enhance their donation to just grow your impact in the community in a new way. Any questions?
First of all, Janine, thank you very much for sharing that story about your facility rentals, the business itself, and then kind of all of those things that have come out of it. If anybody does have any questions, we have a few minutes that you can just feel free to raise your hand. We'll call on you. I don't know if there was any questions or comments in the chat box. I'll ask Michael Zimmerman and Rachel, anything that anybody noted in the chat box? No. Okay. Any questions? No. Okay. Well, maybe what we'll do then is I'm going to ask Janine one question, and then we'll turn it over to Larry. And Janine, the question for you is, having
I'm sorry, Michael, we just got a question in the chat box before you go there from
Marjorie.
Marjorie. What is business planning software?
Good question. So every organization that goes through margin and mission ignition, as Janine alluded to, uses business planning software. It's called Live Plan. So if you'd like to offline take a look at Live Plan, I believe it's liveplan.com. Feel free to do that. It is the best business planning software out there. We've been using it for quite some time. It's user-friendly, it's intuitive, it's inexpensive to subscribe to, and it does provide you with a good, just sort of step-by-step. So of course you have to do all the work. It's all, information in that's ultimately going to result in a good, strong business plan. But part of the margin and mission ignition process for any of the organizations that go through it with us, we will work with you on your plan, but all of the content in the plan actually gets captured in that template. So feel free to take a look at that.
Michael, I saw one of the questions was, how engaged was my board? I want to be sensitive because I can see the level of different organizations. And so we've actually gone through this process now in a business plan document 3 times. Okay, and I will tell you that my board was involved in 3 different ways based off of the board at large and where we are in our organization business plan overall. So for instance, in the beginning, in all 3 scenarios, we use them as a resource to guide us in surveying them. What are we forgetting? What do you think about the idea? So we use them as that type of resource. But we're a strong enough organization, and that is not for everyone, but we were a strong enough organization. The narrative was written by staff, the people who do it day to day, and our board members were the editors. And so we were able to engage them at a high level that kept them involved, but didn't get them so much into the weeds that they were telling staff what had to be done. So for us, that worked really well because it was very engaging. Also, it helped them. We were feeding them information in regards to editing that helped them write future strategic plans about other ideas that came up that we weren't doing right now, so that they could already start thinking of the future. Hopefully that answers the question. So our board was involved, but not so much into the weeds that they were writing the narrative. Larry and Michael were great about working with key staff in that instance, but we always had a board member on the call, and that board member was almost like a liaison and kept their hat strategically thinking about, okay, what are we as board members going to have to help them do 3, 6 months, 1 year down the line? Great question, though.
Thanks, Janine. Yeah, so you'll always hear us say ad nauseum, leadership, board, and staff should be involved in earned income initiatives, earned income ventures, regardless of how sophisticated your organization is in relation to earned income or not. It really does help you either to take what you have to the next level with buy-in throughout the organization, or if you're embarking on something completely new, it's another important way to make sure that you're all working together in lockstep. So with that, we've got about 5 or 6 minutes left. Larry, I'm going to turn it over to you to share a little bit about margin and mission ignition and how these organizations can participate.
Thanks, Mike. I could probably have Stephen, Cindy, or Betsy do this part since they've heard it 3 times now. But what does this mean for you, and how can you relate to it? I think Janine has done just a great job in providing an overview in the different phases and the outcomes that they received through the business planning process. So it's about margin, mission, ignition. So it's all about helping boost your revenue and increasing your mission impact, as you've heard throughout this presentation and the previous couple that we've done. So it starts with the lab series, and Janine focused on the lab series, how important they are. The first one is in September on the 28th, and then we do 1 a month after that, and it wraps up in December. And each lab focuses on a different topic, different focus. There's a little bit of homework in between those sessions, and then Mike and I will have about an hour Zoom call with you and your team after lab 1 and after lab 3, just to talk about what's happening, how's it going, what's your ideas, brainstorming maybe some other opportunities, and kind of helping you pull it together for that final lab, which is really all about the business planning process. So the results at the end of the 4 labs is you've created some really valuable learning and some tools, and you've worked together as a team throughout the process. So, but there's more, as you know, working with the Patterson Foundation, and that more is some consulting that we'll provide if you have the desire to move forward after the lab series. we'll do some one-on-one consulting with you. We'll work with you for a few months to help put the business plan together. There'll be some startup capital that's raised, and another consultant, actually Sarah Leonard, is brought in to help with that piece. And then there's a business planning implementation. We'll spend another few months with you, one-on-one for every week. And then we move into a tracking and monitoring phase. As Janine said, how important that phase was. A couple of years, we'll have monthly calls, and just to ensure that things are moving forward and, you know, helping overcome some barriers that you might have. Lots of organizations in the four-county region have gone through the process. These have actually gone through the business planning. Lots more have gone through the actual lab series, but these made it through the lab series, and we actually have developed business plans and implemented those business plans with them. So reach out to any of them, those that you've heard participate over the past couple of sessions, or any of others that you might know on the screen, on the slide. First lab is on September 28th, and then it's October 19th, November 16th, and December 14th. Jot those down if you don't already have them. Some of you have already registered for the September 28th lab. We will open it up to the kind of general public with a large mailing in the next week or so. So you guys have an opportunity to get in early and first. Tomorrow, you'll get another registration link for that first lab. You'll get today's recording that you can share with board members or staff or others, and you'll get a copy of today's PowerPoint slides. So if you have any questions, follow-up questions for either myself or Mike or Janine, please reach out. You can also scan this right now and register for the first lab. And I think one or two of you have done that, so we're excited about that. And we really encourage you, not just the executive director, but bring a board member, bring a staff member. The larger the team, the better. And we feel that because then you all have kind of witnessed and heard and educated yourself, and you can have really good discussion when you go back to your organizations. Join us next Tuesday, and here's Sharon Costelli. Really an exciting story, and how she has really created and grown a catering business in Hartford using the same model. So hopefully, I know many of you have already signed up for that. So we look forward to hearing Sharon. And I will just open it up. Any questions about today, the process, next steps?
Larry, I'll just add one more thing because of going through your slides, and anybody who is thinking they don't have time to go through the labs. The other thing is remember what they said, Michael brought to it in the beginning when he said, you might already be doing something in a small way, and this is a way to make a bigger impact in what you're doing. So even if you're just a little bit contemplating it, go through the 4 labs and find out, you know, how this can help you as leaders in your organizations get your team more involved. And then the other thing that it does from a team leadership point of view is if you have somebody so ingrained into a program and they're learning more about the business side of the decision making in your organization, they realize that there's a lot of depth there, that these decisions are not easy. And so there's the team, again, I'm going to say going through the process enhanced relationships within the office because people had more respect and appreciation for those hard decisions that need to be made.
Great, thank you, Janine. And this question came up last week. What's the cost associated with this? And the answer is there's no cost to you for the lab series or the technical assistance you receive after that if you choose to move forward. Your cost is the time and the talent that you'll put into it. Any other questions or comments? Thank you so much for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing all of you hopefully next week to hear Sharon. And please move forward and register. That's what we want. We want to work with you guys. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.